Hello, everyone. Welcome to Success Studio Live. I'm your host, Tara LaFon Gooch. I'm the CEO of Best Branding Solutions. I'm also a keynote speaker and very soon to be published author. Holy cow, it's happening this month. I'm freaking out a little bit. It's like, just 17 days away. Wow, it's crazy. So I'm surrounding myself with authors. Why? Because why not? They're awesome people, but also because I get to learn so much from them, and so should you. Guys, my guest today is the one and only Sheena Yap Chan, Wall Street Journal best-selling author, consultant, and professional speaker extraordinaire. Hello, my friend. How are you doing today?
Hi, Tara. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's such an honor to be a guest on your show. And I just love everything that you do, just putting yourself out there, being your authentic self. I love it. And that's the kind of people I always want to surround myself with. So it's such an honor to be here today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. But, what struck out to me, of course, is you're a Wall Street Journal best-selling author and you have a book about confidence. So I had to
Yes,
talk to you because,
that's
hello,
my
we
book.
need the Tao of self-confidence. We need to surround ourselves with other people talking about this topic of confidence. But I love your perspective on it. Coming from an Asian family, Asian heritage, you have a different perspective on confidence than I didn't even have a concept of. Why? Because I don't have that lived experience. So I think it is so cool that the Tao of self confidence. What brought you to write this book about confidence? Did you have a journey of confidence where you were going through your life kind of similar to me and feeling like you weren't confident at one point?
Yeah, that is a great question. And of course, this goes way before the book. It really stemmed from my upbringing. Growing up in Toronto, I never saw anybody that looked like me in the media. All I ever saw was blonde hair and blue eyes. And I always felt ashamed of being Asian up till to my 20s when I decided to dye my hair back from blonde to my original hair color. And so that's when I really felt myself as an Asian person, being able to embrace my heritage and everything else in between. And in 2015, as I was dealing with my own confidence issues, I was trying to find resources that really catered to Asian women. But I couldn't find any. And representation was very important for me because we hardly had any, right? Like the first all Asian movie I watched was The Joy Luck Club. And that was what, in 1993 it came out, and then like 25 years later we had Crazy Rich Asians. So there's a big gap in between. So I realized that if I wanted to have representation and support, I had to start it. So actually, the Tao of Self Confidence started as a podcast. I launched it in 2015, where I interview Asian women about their journey to self confidence. And since then, I've interviewed over 700 Asian women on this topic from around the world, from different backgrounds, different career industries. But I knew it wasn't enough because, as much as I love podcasting, it's still a very small platform compared to other media platforms. And I really just wanted to create bigger visibility for us. Kind of like you look at BTS, they're literally everywhere. They have fans from all over the world. Like, I realized if I wanted bigger visibility, I had to tap into different forms of media. So during the pandemic, I met a lady online who started a book series called Women Who Boss Up. And we co created a book called Asian Women Who Boss Up. And since then, we've launched 10 books from different themes, which has been so amazing. And, and then I utilize that book to really speak my truth, speak my voice, be a voice for women, especially Asian women, especially with the rise of anti-Asian hate that's been happening in the U.S. and Canada. Asian women are 2.5 times targeted more than men. And
Wow.
so, it was important to call these out, talk about these things, because especially in the media, when, someone from our community gets attacked, it always seems like the media sympathizes with the attacker. They're going through a mental health issue. They're going through a mental health issue. Well, what about the people being attacked? You don't think they're going through a mental health issue? You don't think they're going through trauma or PTSD after what happened? And yet nobody asks how they're doing. It's frustrating, right? And especially when it's an elderly person, right? Because that could be your grandmother, your mother, like that could be someone close to us. And so, as I was promoting the other book and really become a voice, one thing led to another. I got approached by Wiley to write a book about Asian women leadership. And at first, I was really scared, to be honest, like major imposter syndrome, because I was like, are you sure you want me to talk about leadership? Like, who am I to talk about that?
Mhm.
And I realized that I had to write this book, not just for myself, but for every other Asian woman out there who felt like they don't have a voice, they don't have a platform, or they don't have a support system that can show them what's possible. So, last summer, I started writing this book. I had to write this book in less than 3 months to get it out in May of this year. And here we are today. Yeah, it was crazy. Like, I had no idea what I was going to write about. All I did was outline. And as soon as I signed the contract, I was like, let's get to work.
You are my kind of girl.
And then
Yeah,
a year later, here it is today.
I told you I had a similar crazy thing. Everybody that wants to write a book overthinks it to nauseum, right? And they sit and they wonder about it and think about it. I just started doing it and pumping it out. And here I am 5 months later, 4 months later, whatever it is. It's insane, right? When you have a purpose, when you really have a message and a mission, like you're talking about, to really help people, you can't help yourself, right? You feel like compelled to write about it.
Yeah. And I had the best advice my friend gave me when during the writing process. She said, "Write like you're drunk and edit like you're sober."
That's perfect.
Don't overthink it, especially women. We feel like, oh, is what I'm writing make sense? Will people like it? And I was the same. I didn't know if people would like the book. I didn't know if they think it was like, if there was going to be any negative or positive feedback. And of course, we're always afraid when we put our work out there. And it was great to when I heard that, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna write and then figure it out later. And then so I did. I just wrote, like I would go to Starbucks on the weekends and just write this thing out so that I could meet the deadlines and get it out on time. Like I was committed regardless, right? I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I can make it happen. I had to like tell my family, don't bug me as much. I'm gonna be writing this book for maybe the next 3 months.
Good for you. That's awesome. And we have Jennifer chiming in. Hello, Jennifer. Jennifer would like your book name. So,
Oh, here it is. It's called The Tao of Self Confidence: A Guide to Moving Beyond Trauma and Awakening Within. Awakening the Leader Within. So it's available on Barnes and Nobles, Amazon. If you're in Canada, Indigo. And other countries as well. Singapore has it in their bookstore, which was really cool. Someone sent me a photo of that. It's also available in Europe. So it's really cool to have this book like literally worldwide, because my first book, I just had it. It was self-published, so I just had it available in Canada and America. But this book, literally, people, my friends and family in the Philippines have been able to get it. So it's really cool to just have something that I could really spread the message worldwide.
that's amazing. I love that. But what's so amazing is how, and we've talked about this, Sheena. We have a similar kind of confidence journey, but it's with just a slightly different spin, right? Because of your perspective, based on your ethnicity and how you were raised, etc. And same, right? But that's why I wanted Sheena on my show, even though we both have books about confidence. Why? Because her book might resonate with you in a different way than my book will. And that's really okay. The point of it is that we all seek help and become more confident. It's such a game changer, don't you think, Sheena? It's like, you're confident now. I can tell you're a confident person. But what was it like when you were in that transitioning period, like going from unconfidence to confidence and really believing in yourself? I know for me, it felt like a metamorphosis, almost like coming into being a butterfly, really. But what was it like for you based on your journey?
It wasn't a fast process, right? Like it was slow. Even the first 5 years of my podcast, I was still dealing with a lot of confidence issues because I had a lot of things to unpack, right?
Wow.
If you grow up in a culture where you're taught to live one way, never make any noise, stay in the background, be humble, don't
Mhm.
share what you're feeling. I had to learn to unpack that, right? And even just the trauma that we go through, and people don't realize we're not only carrying our own traumas, but the traumas of our parents and grandparents, learning to unpack that and realizing like, oh my god, like, this is what's holding me back, and finding solutions to heal through that so you can move forward. So and this is why this book is so different from other books, right? Like, yeah, there's a lot of great leadership books, but a lot of them are really rigid manuals. And, we really have to work on our mindset first and figure out what's really holding us back from moving forward. How can we be the best leader we can be? Maybe there's something from our childhood that's holding us back, or maybe, like I mentioned, intergenerational trauma or even historical trauma, right? Especially in our culture, like Asian women, like the history is just like, we have certain traditions that we do that just doesn't make sense. Like,
Yeah.
back in the day in China, women would have their feet binded as a status symbol. And who would want to do that today? That's painful,
Oh
right?
my gosh, I can barely get into a pair of stilettos without wanting to cry. I can't imagine.
Yeah. And like earlier this year, I just found out that my great grandmother did that. She had her feet
Oh,
binded. Yeah. And I was like, oh
oh.
my goodness. Like, that's horrific. And I can only imagine what my great grandmother was going through. But that's how it was back in the day. And nobody ever questioned, why do we bind our feet? Why is it a status symbol? Like, who made this up? Right. And of course, if we ever question anything, it's like, well, because it's tradition. It's like, no, I need a better answer.
Exactly. Like, let's question that. And hey, guess what, guys? We all have things to unpack. Like, newsflash, you're not alone. When I went to go ahead and publish my book, I was talking to a friend of mine, and I've known him since like elementary school. So I've known him forever. And he said, "Oh, I bought your book." And I was like, "Oh, God, please don't read my book." you
It's
know,
so funny.
I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
there's so much childhood trauma." And then he was like, "Girl, literally everybody has gone through trauma. This is not an
Yeah.
isolated case. If you don't share your message with the world, nobody will be better off for it." And you know what? At first, I was mortified, right? Talking about all this personal stuff and these horror
Yeah.
stories. And it's like, no, if I don't talk about it, no one else will be able to use this as a tool to overcome themselves and their own adversity. So it's almost like an act of service, don't you think?
Oh yeah, I mean, my dad has read the book and I was like, "Oh my god, I was having a panic attack because, I shared things I've never shared with anybody at all, and the first time I've ever shared it was in this book."
Yeah.
I've had my best friends read it as well, and they're so funny because 'cause they're like, when I'm reading this book, I can hear your head, like in my head, your voice, like reading out as they're reading it, or they listen to the audio and they think that's really me speaking to them. So it's really funny. And then they're like, "Oh, so when did this happen? And when did that happen? And which person was this?" Right. So now they get curious because I'm sharing a lot from my experience as well. So yeah, it is nerve wracking for sure. Like when launch date came out, I was just like, oh my god, I hope people like this. I hope it can help them.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope, like I just hope it does something good, right? And we always get scared when it comes to like putting ourselves out into the world, especially women, right? Because sometimes we're not only harsh on ourselves, but unfortunately, sometimes women are harsh on each other. And this is one of the main reasons why we don't advance as fast is because sometimes we tear each other down instead of bringing each other up. And we definitely need more stories from women, because when you look at the stats when it comes to publishing, I mean, women, don't even we don't even make I don't even know what the numbers are, but it's very low, the
Oh,
ratio
yeah.
for men and women. And most readers are women, like 60, like almost 70% of readers are women. So we definitely need more of our stories out there, more of our specific stories, so that women can feel like they have a support system, a role model they can look up to, and break some of these cycles we're still going through today.
Yes. And that's a key word that I want to emphasize, is cycle. So that's one thing that empowered me to write the book. I have a 7-year-old daughter. But growing up, my mom was so powerfully unconfident, Sheena. Probably the most unconfident person I've ever met, really, in my life. And I noticed that it was a cycle. And once I realized that it was a cycle and that I was adapting her behaviors as my own, I realized that I didn't own them. And it was enough for me to be able to let go. But honestly, you don't hear people talk about it as a cycle. We talk about other things as cycles, like poverty, addiction, mental health, abuse, even. But we rarely talk about confidence as a cycle. And it's a learned behavior, just like anything else, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. And it's this, like in our culture, like, all we do is like do the same thing over and over again. And this is why it's so important to break the cycle. We've been taught the same way to live for centuries, from
Yeah.
generation to generation to generation. Like they say, intergenerational trauma goes as 4 generations deep, but I believe for us it's way deeper because we've been doing the same thing over and over again, thinking that's how success is, not realizing there's different ways because we're different people. We're gonna do things differently, right? It's not always going to be the same thing. And if we go outside of that path, we're considered as crazy, out of line, shameful, when really it's not.
Absolutely. And we've got some questions here. Guys,
Yeah.
keep on the questions. I love these comments. There's men, there's women, people from all over the globe. Keep those comments pouring. And as Sheena and I are talking, if you guys have any questions, feel free to jot them down. But Wendy's popping in. Tara and Sheena, how do you get your books published? Where do you find an agent? Also, can you recommend a speaking agency? This is such a great live. Thank you. Awesome. So for me, I self published on Amazon. It's my first book. The cool thing about Amazon is that if it does pick up, some a publisher could, take it, which is great. Sheena, you've worked with a publisher, I assume, but you've also self-published, correct?
Yeah, so my first book was a co-authored book, so that was through a book marketing company that self-published it. And then this current book is through Wiley, which is one of the biggest publishers. So they actually approached me. Actually did a speaking engagement for them last year, and then they approached me to work with them as an author. So when it comes to finding an agent, I don't have one.
Hey,
um,
that's cool though. But I like your story about first you opened your door for you, right? So
yeah,
you just made it happen by Amazon self-publishing. And then the next book, someone approached you, which is really how I want to, work it. So that's so cool. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. And for me, it's like I'm really big on just like going out there, reaching out to people, making the first move. And as women, we tend to not do that because of how society tells us we need to like be prim and proper, don't put yourself out there. And it doesn't help that Hollywood romanticizes everything. Like, Prince Charming's coming to save you, when in real life, no one's coming to save you. So you need to go out there and be okay to make the first move. I've learned to just get out of my own way and just start going out there and doing things, and that's how you can get the results that you want. Because if you're just waiting for things to happen, guess what? You're just gonna keep waiting. Nothing happens. Like nothing's coming to you unless you go out there, promote yourself, share what you're doing. I mean, the best marketing plan or marketing strategy you could ever look at is the Barbie movie. Like they're
Oh,
literally in your face, like for a good 2 to 3 months, right? And look what happened, right? It's the highest grossing movie from a female director, and because I get the constant question I get from women is, how much, like, do you know when do you know it's enough to promote yourself? I'm like, I don't know, just like go out there and
yeah,
do it. Like, are you sick of your face yet? If you're not sick of your face, then keep doing it, right? Because I mean, if you have a product or service that really can impact someone, then just go out there and promote the heck out of it. Like, don't worry about the labels. Yeah, there's going to be somebody out there who won't agree with you. That's fine. They're not your people anyways. There's someone who might tell you you're too much, you're too extra. Just be too much and too extra and go out there, because eventually we can eliminate those names and be seen as confident and courageous, because men do the same thing and they get praised for it, while women do it and we get vilified, right? So we need to stop doing that. We need to cheer on each other. We need to, promote each other. We need to go out there and just show a lot of support, because that support can go a long way.
absolutely. I love it. And Wendy, going back to the second part, or maybe it was the third part of your question, a speaking agency. If you have any questions about speaking, just hit me up because I do help professional speakers get into the industry as well. So Wendy helps survivors of sexual abuse that have been rejected thousands of times. I love that. So, if you have a purposeful message like Wendy has, one of the best things that you can do is to expand your personal brand by authoring a book and then utilizing that as a tool to speak on stage, right?
Yeah.
Let's face it, writing a book makes very few people millionaires, and that's okay. It's a catalyst for additional opportunity, Writing a book, don't expect it to retire on a book, right? But it's a catalyst to get you to another opportunity. And it doesn't mean that you can't retire writing books, but it just helps you even more so, right? With especially with speaking engagements and that sort of thing. So if you're a subject matter expert, I always tell people if you're a subject matter expert, a purpose driven leader, your story should be told in written form, but also spoken, right? People need to be inspired and uplifted. And if we want to change the world, we have to come with an authentic lens and really just do deep dives into storytelling. Um, but I love that. And you're also a professional speaker. So how cool is that? We're so aligned. I love how
Yeah.
we have so many synergies. Would
Yeah.
would but that couldn't have been easy because you used to be unconfident. So how
Oh,
was
yeah, but it
that?
wasn't easy. Like, I would like have a pity party of myself. Like, I'm such a loser. Oh my god, there's so many people out there doing it better than me. Why do I need to go out there and do it? Like, I can't believe I'm such a failure in life. Like, and it's hard when you're doing something on your own and you have no support. That's even worse because then the pity party just gets worse, right? You're just
Yeah,
like, oh my god, I'm like the biggest loser ever. So this is why I'm always very intentional when people ask me what's the one tip you want to give people is to seek help. Be okay to ask for help. Culturally, we're told not to ask for help because it's seen as a sign of weakness or a handout. And so we've always tried to do things ourselves, which doesn't help us because we have a lot of blind spots. And we can't see our own blind spots. They're called blind spots for a reason, right? Like even when you're driving, you have a rear view mirror because you want to check your blind spots. So in life, you have to do the same thing. Go seek help. Go find someone that can check your blind spots so they can course correct it and you can move forward as your best self. In
yeah,
all honesty, if it wasn't for me being able to seek help, be part of a community, I wouldn't be here today. So this is why I say it's really important to seek help, be part of community, hire a coach, hire a mental health professional, whatever that help looks like. And of course, hiring the right kind of help, of course, right? Um, because you're not going to be able to do everything yourself. You're not someone who knows how to do every single thing and you don't have to. And it doesn't help, that society constantly tells women they need to be the superwoman when like in reality, no, you don't have to be the super. We do like 10 million things at once. Like what more do you want from us, right? Like let's like we need a break, we need some help, we need like support, camaraderie, so that this journey is a little bit better as we keep moving forward, right? And this is why our stories matter, so that they can relate to it and realize they're not alone. They've gone through the same thing. They've had the pity party. They felt like a loser, a failure. They've gone through fear and rejection and anxiety, all these crazy feelings that we go through because we're women, right? We're more emotional than men. It's just, that's just the truth.
yeah. And we internalize it too, right? So
Yeah.
seeking help, and that was part of my journey. I couldn't do it on my own. I remember going to a therapist and thinking my problem was success, right? So I just couldn't make the amount of money that I wanted to make. But it turns out that my problem wasn't success, that I had all the tools to actually succeed. My problem was that I didn't have the confidence to be able to put those tools to work for me. Guys, listen to that. This is real. This is a actual true story, right? When I left and started entrepreneurship myself, I had no idea the amount of confidence it would take to be an entrepreneur, to be a female, to put yourself out there on social media daily, to be open and vulnerable and authentic. Like that takes a lot of guts. And I didn't have it. And I thought my problem was I didn't have the tools, all these tools or resources or some other thing. Really, what I just lacked was the confidence and self belief to again set those tools in motion to work for me. That's why I say that gratitude is the foundation for all success. Or, pardon me, confidence is the foundation for all success. Why? Because if you can be confident, you can learn to be successful. I have not met a super successful person, have you, Sheena, that is not confident? I don't think.
Oh no, like everyone needs confidence, right? I mean, like confidence is so important, and the foundation of confidence, of course, is that belief in yourself. you need to have this innate belief that you're going to make it happen regardless of the circumstances. Because if you don't have that belief in yourself, you're not going to go out there and get uncomfortable. You're not going to go out there and face your fears, face your anxiety. Sometimes even blank out when you're on camera, right? Because that could all
Yeah.
happen. Well, it's happened to me, so but I didn't die, right? Um, and it's so like you look at some of like these celebrities online, right, or on media, like some of them have this confidence, and because they have that confidence, they know that no matter what happens, they're gonna make it.
Yeah.
If they have to get rejected 1,000 times, if they have pushback day in and day out, they know they're going to make it happen because most people who are successful aren't overnight success. They've been putting in the work day in and day out, right? I mean, you look at the movie like Everything Everywhere All at Once, one of my favorite movies ever. Um, the main characters there, they had to fight for those roles to get to where they are today. Michelle Yeoh has been in Hollywood for decades, 4 decades. Hui Kwan, left Hollywood and then came back again and has one of the best comeback stories of America ever. Even James Hong, 7 decades, seven
Wow.
decades before he finally got invited to like the Oscars, right? So, I mean, these are people who've been putting in the work, right? Even I think the guy who started Tofurky, like for 10 years straight, he was like at a negative, or he made only like 30 grand for like the 10 years that he started it. But like, look at where Tofurky is today. It's like a multi-million-dollar industry, right? I mean, like, veganism, plant-based diet is on the rise now. So a lot of people buy it. But back then, like, he just knew that he wanted to provide plant-based meals for people out there, and look where he is today. But that's not how we started. So I think we need to have more truth when it comes to this stuff because, social media, all you see is the fancy cars, the jet set life. Everything's very surface level, not realizing there's so many things that you don't know of. Like some people could be faking it, some people could be in debt trying to live up to that lifestyle. Some of them are doing things that you would never you would never imagine, right? Like that would bring their morals down. And I'm judging them or anything, but some people are in different situations and they do what they have to do. But, sometimes will you sell your soul just to put up that perfect photo on Instagram? So
Yes.
nobody talks about this. Like nobody talks about the deeper parts of that. And I think it's so important because really when you're trying to do things for yourself, it's not always, roses and butterflies, right? It's depressing sometimes, and sometimes we go through a funk, right? Because we go like there's days where we're like, oh my god, I'm on fire, and then there's days where you're just like really depressed and you're not too sure what to do next. And that's normal because we're all human and we all have different feelings, and we go through waves of things.
That's right, exactly. And even, going back to confidence, even when you become confident, there's going to be good days and bad days, right? So I would love to leave our audience with just one really good tip because for me, when I feel that unconfidence or negative thoughts or imposter syndrome are creeping in, I try to reframe my thoughts with gratitude, right? How far I've come in that journey, and just appreciation of where I've been and what I've gone through to make me the person that I am today, and to just have gratitude for the present, but also the past and everything in between. Do you have any good tips or secrets, being the confidence expert that you are? Of what do we do when we're feeling low, when we're not feeling confident? How can we pick ourselves back up, Sheena?
I mean, I love listening to other people's stories. That pumps me up because I see their struggle and I understand because I've been through that struggle and I realize if they can come out of it, then so can I. This is why our stories matter, our specific stories matter, and why representation is so important. And when it comes to building confidence, like you don't have to do this alone, right? You can go ask for help. Someone who can be there to kind of guide you, right?
Yeah.
And then just taking things one step at a time, right? Sometimes we feel like we need to make big leaps to get the results that we want, but really it's the small daily actionable steps that yield the great results. Like we have to remind ourselves Rome wasn't built in a day, so don't expect yourself to do the same.
Amen, right? Just like you can't get in shape after 2 workouts, it
Yeah.
takes some consistency. Confidence is a muscle and an exercise just like anything else. It's a sport. But here's my friend coming in. She's a neuroscientist, by the way, and she also likes the topic of confidence very much. But um, I totally agree with you, Shri. So confidence is built by taking action, by taking just like what you're saying. That it comes through that momentum. Guess what? Hate to break the news to anybody. If anybody told you that you can manifest the life that you want by sitting and thinking about it all day, ask for your money back, right?
Yeah.
Please actually ask 2 times your money back because they took your time too. But you have to put in the action, you have to put in the work. But the cool thing about this is that if you do put in the action, you do have the gratitude and you're continually working on that self-improvement, guess what? It goes against the laws of nature to fail. What do you think, Sheena?
Yeah, I mean, yes, confidence does come from taking action. And, part of manifestation is taking the action to make that manifestation work. So here's one example, right? I was in Hawaii like 7 years back, and I was like, I really want a cookie. And, I just said to myself, I wanted a cookie. And so, in order for me to have that cookie, what do I have to do? I have to go somewhere and buy a cookie, right? But this is the funny part. I went to a coffee shop and bought coffee, and out of nowhere, this person offers me a cookie for free. That wouldn't have happened if I didn't go to that coffee shop, right? Like, I'm not going to think of a cookie and a cookie falls on my lap. There's necessary actions you have to take to make it happen. Like, if you want to make, 6 figures, what does it take? You need to reverse engineer. Like, okay, so if I want to make $100,000 in a year, I have to make about $8,300 a month to reach that. And then if you divide 8,300 by 30 days, or you can divide 100,000 divide by like 365 days, how much do you need to make per day to reach that, right? So yeah, manifestation isn't just like I want a Corvette, and a Corvette falls off your lap. Like, what is it? What are you going to do to make that happen? And so action is really important. And it doesn't matter if it's the right or wrong action, because whatever action we take, it will always lead to that. We're going to make mistakes, of course. We're going to learn from it. We're going to course correct from it and then keep moving on. So someone's going to get her cookie now.
Good for you. Have one for me. That sounds really good. But you know what? That is so true, so right on. I'm so grateful for this conversation and to spread the word about confidence. Again, it's the silent struggle that many people are facing, but few admit to. Why? Because they're afraid of being perceived as weak.
Yeah,
They're afraid of being judged or something like that. Well, guess what? I'll be the first to admit that I have suffered from such a lack of confidence in my life that
me too.
it led to depression. Yes, it led to depression and anxiety, and I felt like every single day I had to wear a mask because nobody liked me. I thought I had no talents, no skills, no abilities, zero. But there was a little tiny seed inside of me that said, I believe in myself. That's all you need sometimes, guys. Don't think you need to have Mount Everest inside of you. You just need a little seed of confidence, and with some cultivation and care, guess what? It'll grow. But you have to have that little seed, and I believe everybody watching does. Thank you for the beautiful conversation, my friend.
Oh my God, thank you for having me. It's been such a blast. I'm so honored to be here.
It's so cool. Well, you're welcome back on the show anytime. Again, what we teach people is how to be successful, success principles, and guess what? Confidence goes right in line with that. So, everybody, go ahead and purchase her book if that resonates with you.
Here's the book.
There it is. Mine will be out in a few days. Oh my God, I just can't even believe it. It's
It'll
so
be great.
exciting. But thank you so much for everybody who came to the show today. Tune in next time, and we will catch you on the next episode of Success Studio Live. Take care.